Welcome, guys. So I'm continuing my series of Behind the Katana Review with this guy right here. It's called the Habaki.
Habaki is a Japanese word that refers to a metal collar that surrounds the base of a sword blade and holds the blade in place in the scabbard saya.
Now, there are many intricate pieces on a katana, as you know. So I feel like this series kind of addresses my reviews and why I approach, or even reviewers of all katana.
If I push the knots around, or even just kind of the side of the ito, I can kind of move it around a little bit. And I feel that when I'm moving it, and it causes me to really kind of tense my grip up.
The good ones, anyway, do approach reviewing the katana and discussing the katana in a certain manner because of all these intricate pieces and all these things that kind of come together. Now, if you look at the production of how they make these habakis, when it's done in a handmade fashion, it's such intricate detail in terms of how they cut the sheets and they form everything up to the blade. It's just so interesting for me to see how all these pieces are made for the blade, how everything kind of comes together and fits together, kind of like, you know, a perfect Lego set. And it's just always intriguing to see a quality habaki done by hand, as opposed to kind of these just molds that are kind of just thrown in the bin and they kind of pick them out, throw them onto the blade, and hopefully everything fits into place. But when you see it done by hand and see it done with quality, professionalism, and pride involved, it's really a sight to behold. And by the way, guys, I know I lost my hair. I'm bald, but that's what anxiety and stress and old age will do to you. And I got plenty of all of the above. There's so many things that are going on in a katana that before you approach these reviews, interpreting why I can only speak for myself, why I personally review and have an opinion on a katana and their pieces in a certain way, and why I demand so much out of a katana, you really need to kind of isolate everything individually and talk about why these pieces need to be made and assembled in a certain way. The habaki is basically what it is it is the blade collar. It's the collar of the blade. Now, but if you look at a katana, especially when it's unsheathed, the center point of where your eyes always goes on a katana is the habaki. Some happen to be very ornated, very decorated. Some are also very plain and just very, five and dime, type of thing, in a bin, where a lot of them have this typical brass habakis. This particular sword is a Zisei. This has a little bit of a fancier habaki, a lot fancier, and it's also copper. And the copper habakis are also well fit. When you have them using copper as opposed to brass on a habaki, they're usually very well fit on the katana. This is a great example of a very well fit habaki onto the katana. And my pet peeve is having the blade, the collar of the habaki, the collar really hog the blade, and not to have these spaces that are in between here. Now, that is for aesthetic reasons, and that is also, even if you're cutting water bottles, it's also a deterrent from getting water that's going to kind of leak through the cracks of the habaki into the tang and then cause rust under the tang, under the scour, the handle. Not like water won't get in there anyway, but it's more of a deterrent. But I think it's more of an aesthetic thing and a fit and finish in terms of a quality fit and finish. Spine of the habaki is the munamachi, and that's the hamachi, but that's also the fitting of the habaki on the blade on each side. Everything has a name in Japanese terms of a katana, guys. Everything has a name, everything. And how well the habaki is fit would tell you the quality of the sword and the craftsmanship and what kind of passion and artistic expression they're putting into the habaki. You have certain habakis from Citadel and Evolution Blade, which are absolute pieces of art. It's an art form. Every piece on the katana is an art form. Most budget katana have the typical brass habakis. Most of them work. They're going to have a lot of spaces and grooves. I always try to emphasize how I wish it can kind of form it and make it work. But when you get dealing with a budget katana, you're going to basically see a lot of that. This is a cloud hammer sword. This is a pretty nice habaki. The fitting is okay. The fitting is not perfect because you can see the spaces. You can see it on the screen. You have another cloud hammer sword. You can see the spaces in between. And this is probably one habaki that's probably used on many different katana. Now, the importance of the habaki is not just have a blade collar. It's not just to have everything kind of push down and fit well and have everything fit together. The Habaki is very essential to have the handle not fall off and not have the Suba rattle along with the addition of the Seppas and all that stuff. Everything works in conjunction with each other. Habaki is very important to keep the sword in one piece as a unibody construction. The Habaki is also in charge of working with the koiguchi, and that'll be another segment because that's important. And depending on how well the koiguchi is formed around the Habaki, you're going to have. So without the Habaki on the blade, this sword will kind of completely fall out, and that's not the purpose. You need to be able to do a thumb push and be able to unsheath it. So the Habaki in conjunction with the koiguchi is extremely important. It's not just an art piece, it's not just an artistic expression. See that you have a quality piece in your hand by having a very ornated and very decorated Habaki with beautiful materials like brass and copper and silver inlays and things like that. So this is why, guys, this is why I emphasize on having a well-fit Habaki, is to make sure the sword stays in place. It doesn't rattle, it doesn't fall out. It's not a safety issue where it's kind of going to be falling out and the blade, you're going to, subconsciously try to catch the blade and cut your hand off. So it's a safety issue, it's an artistic thing. So that's the importance of why an Habaki is so important and why we emphasize on having a well-fit Habaki onto the blade, aesthetically, fit and finish-wise, quality-wise, and also that the blade stays in place with the scabbard or the saya. Now, some manufacturers do a lot better than others. Some budget swords within the $200 range are pretty much the same standard brass Habakis, some spaces. You can get that called the fingernail test, where you can get your fingernail in between. But they work. They kind of hold in place because they form the koiguchi around the right way. And some, as long as one of those jobs is done on the right way, it will kind of, stay in place. Some swords, like I showed you the Zisei, other swords are also, and I hate to kind of beat this sword to death and try to kind of push it down your throat. And I'm not selling it to you, but I can't emphasize, when we talk about quality, and we talk about Habaki and the quality of everything, we have to kind of mention the Huawei. Now, you'll see pictures on screen. The way they kind of this is a handmade Habaki. Very rarely do you find a handmade Habaki, a Habaki that's made for the blade. This was definitely a handmade Habaki because the way that this thing completely hugs the blade, and when you take this thing apart and reassemble it again, and how everything goes into place perfectly, there was a lot of thought, pride, and passion that was put into how this Habaki was made, handmade out of copper, fits into place. It is just absolutely stunning in terms of the quality of the work, the hamachi, the munamachi, how everything just kind of fits and works so well in conjunction with each other. But aesthetically, this is probably one of the most beautiful Habakis I've ever seen in terms of the fit of it onto the blade. Obviously, there's more ornated ones in higher priced swords like Citadel and Evolution blade, but I haven't had the pleasure yet. This is what I have, and this is what I have to compare a lot to. And this is definitely a great comparison to compare many different swords on the market. Koiguchi is another story. I mean, have you ever seen such a beautiful Koiguchi? An opening on the saya, but kind of when you put this into place, it fits into place so smoothly. It pops out incredibly well. It slides like it's on rails. It is just, this is my interpretation of something extremely well made. Gaijiro now has also its own custom Habaki that you won't find on anything other than the Gaijiro swords. This is a cross-feathered Takajigai, which means cross-feathered, and you notice how this Habaki was made for this sword. And unless you're finding a spin-off or a rip-off, you're not going to find another Habaki made like this. And this is definitely draws your eyes in the center of the sword to this cross-feathered pattern. It's absolutely gorgeous. And this is also a very well-fit Habaki. Not as good as Huawei, but it's still well-fit. It fits into place and makes sure everything stays tight. And Koiguchi is done well. Again, testament of a quality sword. And then when you kind of put this into place, it fits into place, thumb, and it's perfect. And that's the testament of a quality sword.
Talk about the Habaki. The Habaki is just a simple brass Habaki. I think it's an opportunity for Hanwei to zazz up and maybe change some of the models. Is just do a slightly different Habaki, something more than the standard brass collar. Put some grooves or some pattern in it or something that just adds a a touch of bling would be appreciated. Now,
That's not to say that you can't find a well-fit Habaki and Koiguchi on other swords. You can find it on Jakku. You can find it on swords in Northshire. Understand, though, there are times when you're going to have to do maintenance to these swords, because when you use it over and over again, the Koiguchi is going to loosen up, and you're going to have to find a fix to make sure that you still have the same fit and finish, and the sword stays in place and it doesn't fall out of its scabbard. My personal fix is the Gorilla Glue fix. I know there's a wood stent fix, which is perfectly fine in that traditional sense. I like my Gorilla Glue fix. It works for me. It works for a lot of people out there. I'll link that fix in this video as well, so you can take a look at it. I got 2 videos out, I think, of that, and I mentioned it many times, but that's something that definitely works. This sword is a prime example of a budget sword. It's about $155. It's a Romance of Men. I really love this sword, but the way this sword came in, that you see basically how it's not falling out, how it's unpushed. The way this sword came in, it kind of really just fell out. There wasn't much friction holding it into place. Now the Habaki is okay. It's not fitted extremely well, but it's fitted okay. You also have the swirly misodomes there, which is pretty much the theme of the whole sword. So they put a little bit more work in trying to making the Habaki artistically nice. It fit okay. The Koiguchi wasn't done right. So basically I did the Gorilla Glue fix, and you can see on the inside corner a little bit, very, very little was all you need for it to expand. And kind of when I did that fix, went into place perfectly fine. It pops out better than brand new. And that was a fix that I used on this. But this was a prime example of a budget sword at $155 and needing to have this type of fix put into it. So it's good to know how to maintain your swords and how to do these fixes. When the Habaki and the Koiguchi don't play nice together. So this is the why question. Why? Why do you talk about the Habaki so much? And why do you want it to be fit well? Or why artistically it needs to be done this way? It's a testament of a quality job. It means that it's going to hold into place. You're going to have a good, well-fitting sword. It's going to be good for Noto. It's going to be good for a practitioner, and it's going to be good for safety reasons. And it just looks pretty damn good. So it's about pride, quality, and also safety. All right, so come ups, guys. I'm very excited to be ambassadoring some Ryan swords. Ryan sword, I'm going to be getting some samples to basically showing you some of their latest work, which I'm really a big fan of really what Ryan sword is doing. Hopefully I get some good samples in. I show you basically how good their stuff is. I got Romance of Men coming in. Romance of Men is sending me some swords. Very happy about that. And a new company, they supply many different brands like Hanwei, Cat Siberia, Jakku, Hanban, Citadel, Evolution Blade, Zisei. So many of the greatest brands out there. They provide you a one-stop shop for getting these swords, and also at a discounted rate. And it looks like their customer service is pretty damn good. So I'm really looking forward to getting some samples from them coming in soon. And of course, Patrick from Cat Siberia is going to be getting me some samples in as well. I have many swords as an example of great Habakis. That's pretty much prominent in all my reviews. Definitely take a look at these 2 videos that are coming up. Next, click on one of them, because these are 2 prime examples I showed you also in this video of some good, very well fit and finished swords of the Habaki and the Koiguchi and how they were made. And stay tuned for the continuing series of Behind the Katana Review.